What's up guys, Ignatius Alpha here again, and I'm going to make another prologue video here to kind of expand on the storyline and talk about the new weapons and the new power-ups and what's so unique to this add-on. Like, why the hell should you play this? I'm glad you guys asked, because I'm going to try and tell you. So as you can see, all the opening screens in this are totally redone, but still have that Wolfenstein feel, of course. Here's the demo. That's the first level we'll be playing. But first, let's take a look at the main menu. It's basically the same. There's no cursor, but the words are lit up, so you can tell where you are. Sound menu is exactly the same. Control menu is exactly the same. I'm going to use the default controls because that's how I roll. Change view is the same. View scores, the high scores. I really like the music here, which is cool. But the really interesting part of this is the read this section, which displays the story. As you can see, the story's like 38 pages, so if you guys don't want to read the whole story, which you can here or on the website, I'm going to try and summarize it in a nutshell for you guys. And there's the quote that basically forecasts this entire game and the entire storyline. So anyway, and I realized in my last video I wasn't going to spoil the end of Spear of Destiny, but I realized the story to this actually spoils the end of Spear of Destiny, so spoiler alert if you haven't played Spear of Destiny. Okay, so here we go. Basically at the end of Spear of Destiny, you fight the Angel of Death, and you finally get the Spear of Destiny back, because the Angel of Death was its ultimate guardian, and you kill the Angel of Death in another dimension, and you get the spear back, and everything's right again with the world. That was the end of Spear of Destiny. So 3 years after that, the Third Reich's in ruins, Hitler's in his bunker in the heart of Berlin with his most trusted officers, one of them being his most loyal officer and master of disguise, the Grau Adler, which I talked about in my last video. Well, Hitler tells the Grau Adler that he'll be dead within the hour and to wait until just before sunrise tomorrow to take a parcel to a castle in Spain where the remaining Nazis are hiding out and are under command by a guy named Baron von Schmidt, who is obsessed with rebuilding the Nazi dream in any way possible. Hitler also gives the Grau Adler one last order, which is, of course, to recapture the spear. There, you can see it right there. So the Grau Adler escapes through enemy lines with the parcel, which feels like gravel inside when he rattles it, and it's hinted right here in the story that, you know, it's the cremated remains of Adolf Hitler, of course. Right there. So 3 months after all that takes place, the Spear of Destiny disappears from a warehouse in Britain by shady-looking British court. Blue has no official record, and of course it was the Grau Adler who takes it back to the Nazi-occupied Spanish castle, where Baron von Schmidt places it behind Hitler's tomb that has his remains in it, and to fulfill Hitler's last wish before he died, which was the belief that the spear could not only resurrect the Third Reich, but the dead as well. So meanwhile, the Allied nations know about this, but they shrug it off as a minor inconvenient theft because they don't know the whole true supernatural powers that the spear actually holds, like our hero B.J. Blazkowicz does. 1 year later, a British agent friend of yours makes contact with you and gives you info about the location of this castle because he posed as a refugee Nazi himself, and he got some info from what's going on over there. And he tells tales of Spanish peasants being kidnapped in large numbers to do hard labor on or around the castle until exhaustion, and being tortured and experimented on for cloning, among other things, while the local forces turn a blind eye to it after being bought off with stolen gold by the Nazis and the help Germany gave them in the Spanish Civil War before that, so they kind of turned a blind eye to the whole thing. They used an accelerated cloning process on the strongest peasants to create mindless clones, since the peasants were starting to rebel, and using the spear and Dr. Scab's experiments. You'll remember Dr. Scabs from the original Wolfenstein 3D, who made the undead mutant army in the first place. They create a large number of mindless clones from quote-unquote human waste organic material, as you can see right there. That's fucking gross, alright? So I'm fighting Spanish clones that are basically made of shit. I don't know. Sounds like good times. Then your agent friend, to wrap this whole thing up, he explains how you're the only hope, you know the true power that the spear holds, blah blah blah, and he agrees to fly you in on a covert aircraft and drop you off in a nearby forest so you can find a back way into this castle, because you can't go through the front doors because they're heavily guarded, and that's suicide. So you're going to go and try and find another way in and fight through the catacombs and go up level by level until you reach the Hall of Heroes, which is where Hitler's tomb's being held, and and Baron von Schmidt's guarding the spear, so you need to get that back to stop their whole plan. And the funny thing about the story is you want to go in with a knife because you don't want to bring a firearm because it'll alert God knows how many guards in the forest, but as you'll see when I'm playing this, like within the first 30 seconds you get a gun without even doing anything, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So, and that's basically the story. It's time to put the specter of Adolf Hitler to rest once and for all. You mutter quietly to yourself. Okay, so that's the story. Let's get to the manual here. Controls are basically the same. Arrows move, control shoots, space opens doors, shift makes you run, yada yada yada. Basically the same difficulties, but they have more names. And the thing about this game, I'll explain later too, you'll see it, is suicidal tendencies. It's basically Death Incarnate difficulty on this game. It's a lot harder this time. The new weapons, as you can see right here, let me go a little bit ahead here. Okay, the pistol and the machine gun come back. They use one type of ammo. You can now hold 150 shots with your ammo. These are the two new weapons right here, which are the multi-cannon shredders. One's a 3-barreled weapon, one's a rare 4-barreled weapon. And they have a different type of ammo, and you can hold 150 shots of that as well. They basically replace the chain gun in the older Wolfenstein games. Here's your new health items. A little stim pack gives you 5 health. The steak dinners come back. And there's bushes here. They're actually little fruit bushes that you find outside, and some can harm you because they're poisonous, and some can actually help you. Now, if you can see right there, it's not hard to tell them apart. The poisonous ones have those orange dots on them and the dark red dots on them. You could tell them apart in game. It's pretty easy. Here's the new keys. There's a new elevator key now. If you want to reach the elevator, you have to get the elevator key, which adds a little more diversity to it because you were lucky to get a silver and a gold key in Wolfenstein 3D and Spear of Destiny, so makes things a little more interesting. Treasures are basically the same. Black diamonds are the 2,500 point treasure now, so we'll be finding those along the way. And there's also artifacts, and as the story explains it, since the spear is being used for evil, the spear magically creates these artifacts for the forces of good that want to stop the evil forces around the spear. So it kind of rips off Doom a little bit. Artifact of Life, you can call like the Soul Sphere of this game, raises your health to 125. You can go all the way up to 200, sometimes give you an extra life. Artifact of Invulnerability, which is basically God mode. Artifact of Displacement, which transports you around the level from one certain place to another. An Artifact of Death, which you may not see as beneficial since it automatically kills you, but it also automatically kills enemies, so it can come in handy there. There's exploding barrels, toxic pools you could step on that'll hurt you, stone columns you can shoot down and access secret areas that way. Landmines that are outside, which you'll see in the very first level. The new enemies, the guards, the SS, and the officers are basically reskins, but too, you'll see the Spanish clones I was talking about earlier, they basically replace the mutants. And there's also another kind of clone, which, we're going to run into this guy a lot, quite literally, and it's a suicide clone, and this guy is basically what it looks like. He runs towards you and detonates when he's very close to you, killing himself, but doing a lot of harm to you in the process. And here's some of the bosses. There's a super clone guarding the lower levels of the castle. He's basically kind of like the Uber mutant from Spear of Destiny. Hiroshima Hayato, really original name, refugee from Japan. He's like the second boss. And here's Gra Adler himself, which is the third boss. And Baron von Schmidt, which is basically the last boss. Or is he? Or so the game wants you to believe. And that's about it. There's credits. Steve W., who made this great game. MCS Amsterdam from Holland, who programmed this great game. Some of the beta testers. And that's about it. I just wanted to make another prologue video and wrap things up so we can dive right in and, play this bitch on the next video. And that's about it. I'll make another video when I'm ready to dive into level 1. And we are playing on suicidal tendencies, so God help us all. Alright? See you guys.